The day the cracked envelope arrived, carrying the weight of a forgotten past and a promise no child should ever have to carry, Rowan Hale stood on the edge of a windswept hill and stared at the abandoned ranch that had somehow become his entire world, unaware that beneath its sunlit soil and crooked wooden bones slept a hidden army of nearly 2,000 Hell's Angels who had never truly left. The call of distant crows cut through the bright noon air as dust curled around his worn shoes, and the old gate groaned like a tired guardian, as if warning him that this inheritance was not a gift, but a test of courage, innocence, and fate itself. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and the quiet strength of the human heart even in the most unlikely places, please like, comment, share, and subscribe to the channel Light of Kindness. Because stories like this remind us that even the smallest soul can awaken the greatest light. Rowan, only 11, with sun-faded hair and eyes too thoughtful for his age, had lost his grandmother the previous winter, the last tether to a life that had once felt safe and warm, and now he stood alone before the massive stretch of dry land she had willed to him with a trembling hand and a gentle smile that had whispered of secrets she never explained. The ranch looked lifeless under the broad blue sky, its fence half collapsed, its fields overgrown, and its barn leaning at a sorrowful angle, yet something about it felt alive, as though the land itself was waiting to decide whether to embrace or break him. Rowan took his first slow steps forward as the afternoon sun poured over broken wood and rusted tools, painting everything in honest daylight that made every scratch and scar impossible to ignore, and the silence felt heavier than the strongest storm because it was not truly empty, only holding its breath. He explored the creaking barn where dust danced like ghostly memories in beams of sunlight, noticing old tire marks that seemed too fresh for a place long abandoned, and strange symbols carved deep into the posts that did not match the simple country life his grandmother had once lived. At night he slept in the small farmhouse with one eye open. Though the request was for a daytime story, the fear clung to him even under the bright sky, and when he heard distant rumbles from somewhere far below the land, he convinced himself it was the earth settling, the echo of forgotten time, or merely his imagination desperate to create monsters where there were none. But the truth was far deeper and far more complicated, because under the ranch lay a forgotten network of underground shelters and passageways, once used as a secret refuge by a massive group of Hell's Angels who had hidden from the world after years of chaos. And while most believed the place deserted, many of them still returned quietly, guarding their lost sanctuary as if it were the last sanctuary of broken men. Days passed, and Rowan, fragile but determined, tried to bring life back to the ranch, clearing weeds, fixing fences, and treating the exhausted soil as if it were a wounded friend. And slowly his soft presence began to awaken something none of those hardened riders expected. One afternoon, as the sky glowed pale and peaceful, Rowan noticed silhouettes near the old ravine, tall figures watching from a distance before vanishing into the ground as if swallowed by the ranch itself. And though fear clenched his small heart, curiosity and a strange sense of compassion guided him forward rather than back. He left small offerings of water and bread near the edge, believing that even shadows might carry hunger and memories. And in time the figures stopped hiding fully, revealing weathered faces marked by the road, eyes tired yet cautious, and silence heavy with stories that could fill entire lifetimes. They never spoke loudly or with threat, only observed the boy who walked his land with grief in his bones and kindness in his hands, and something in Rowan's quiet resilience stirred emotions long buried behind leather and scars. The ranch transformed slowly under the steady brightness of day, as wild grass gave way to order and broken structures rose again with imperfect care, and the unseen inhabitants felt a change they never thought possible. These men, once fierce and feared, recognized in the boy a rare courage that did not come from dominance but from hope, and though he never understood their full history, Rowan felt their presence like guardians lurking at the edges of his fragile world, repairing broken tools in the night, steadying beams before they collapsed, and leaving small signs of protection that spoke of a silent promise. He learned that even abandoned things could carry life, and even those the world had labeled lost could still choose to protect instead of destroy. And as each clear day passed, fear softened into trust, and trust into a shared quiet bond that felt like family formed from pain and redemption. Months later, the ranch stood taller and prouder beneath the wide-open sky, its fields breathing again, its walls stronger, and Rowan's footsteps no longer trembled with uncertainty but echoed with purpose. And on one unforgettable afternoon, the men finally emerged openly, not as monsters but as weary souls seeking peace. And their nods held gratitude too deep for words. Rowan did not see criminals or legends in their hardened features. He saw broken guardians, and they saw in him the small spark that reminded them of everything they had lost, yet still wished to reclaim, and something sacred settled over the land that afternoon, as sunlight washed over both innocence and regret, binding them in an unspoken truth that kindness had rewritten their story. As the sun dipped gently across the far horizon, casting long soft shadows over the revived ranch, the air carried a calm so powerful it felt almost holy, and Rowan realized that the place he had once feared had become the only home where his spirit felt whole again, where sorrow gave way to healing and fear surrendered to hope. If this story touched your heart, if Rowan's courage and the silence of redeemed souls stirred something deep inside you, please take a moment to like, share, and subscribe to Light of Kindness so more hearts can find comfort in stories that remind us compassion still lives in this world. Special request, comment below and share what this story made you feel and what kindness means to you, because your voice keeps these moments alive. And as Rowan stood there beneath the open daytime sky, surrounded by those who had chosen to protect rather than harm, the ranch no longer felt abandoned at all, only reborn, proving that sometimes the most unlikely places and people hold the deepest light of all.